Good morning, good evening. Welcome. So glad you could be with me. So glad I could be here with you today. It is the 21st of June. We are at the end of spring. We're at the end of the time of spring and about ready to enter the time of summer. Time is an interesting thing. Almost was thinking about using the that old song from back in the 60s, Time. It was a good tune, but if I did that, well, Trip algos and stuff like that, but you know that old song. So there's so many aspects to time, and I'm not really wanting to get but so deep in some of them, but we're going to browse around a few of them. There's been a lot of learning in recent years about what is time, and the short perspective on time is understanding that it is not so much a linear thing as it is the fact that we exist in the ever-present now, and cycles happen all around us, and many of us learned about a lot of those cycles, and we are understanding that the ends or the culmination of the conclusions or the beginning of new cycles, that a lot of that is happening at this time. At this time, that we're right in the middle of that. And, it's a very interesting perspective to look back. So, this is going to be a little special video. It's a little different because I got a purpose, so hang with me, because I got a lot to share, a lot of thoughts to share, and it's going to take a little time to get there. So I know it's not easy for some who like those quick in and out videos, but time is required. Time is necessary. And now we are finding ourselves in a place where time is of the essence because of the rapidity and of change, the speed of change, and the of course all the cycles that we refer to. But let's step back in time for just a little bit to about the summer of 2007, long before I even remotely paid any mind to, I don't even know if it was YouTube around then, I don't remember. I know it was not in my world. I did not pay much attention to YouTube at that point in time, if it existed. But in the summer of 2007, I was traveling through the Napa Valley for a period of time, working for an engineering firm up there in Yountville, and it was a very, very beautiful time, beautiful place, and I worked in an office building like literally 100 yards across from that big old famous restaurant, the French Laundry. Time there was very interesting. Get up there every morning to go to work, and the parking lot that I would park in was one of those parking lots where they would raise up the hot air balloons that would float down the valley every day almost, as one of those wonderful things that happened in that place. So every morning, if I got in there early, I'd have to make sure that I would dodge the hot air balloons as they were inflating them, and then they'd kick on the heat, and you'd hear the big, like a jet engine, as they're blowing up the hot air. It was a very beautiful time that was, and I was well in my career. I was at what I would consider the top of it. I was making pretty good money, my friends. I was really making good money. I had succeeded very, very well in the engineering surveying world. I was grossing somewhere in the neighborhood about $120,000 a year, and it was a beautiful time. I had what I needed, what I wanted. Everything was there. I had a nice sizable savings in my digital storage unit called a bank, and I was seeing those currency units gather quite quickly, and having enough funds to not only take care of my family, my ex, my kids at home, back in Virginia, but enough to look at buying a new home. And I was looking in Napa Valley for a fixer-upper. Many of you have talked with me, and you know that I've done a few house flips and remodels and stuff. I did another one after this, or I did one in 08, 09, and 10 when things shifted. But at that point in time, there was a cycle that was ending, and there was whispers of it throughout the mortgage industry. Because as I was looking to get a mortgage for a home that I could live in, work in, and invest in, as you've seen me do so in so many of the things I've done on this channel in the last few years, there were those whispers of something's wrong. Banks are not liking to lend to each other, or lend, and there's some problems with the mortgages, and interest rates are having issues. And well, there was a lot of whispers, and I was in the process, of looking at this house that was in Napa, in the city of Napa, and I was going to buy that. Well, it didn't work out too well at that time, because the mortgage market started to shut down, and within a short period of time, I found that the world that I knew ended, and it ended rapidly in a very short amount of time. And I went into oh my God mode. What am I going to do? Because by December of 2007, first part of 2008, within literally just a couple months' time, the entire housing market in California shut off, literally. And I watched nearly half the people in my industry become unemployed really, really quickly, including me. And at that time, I decided, okay, well, I got some savings up. I've reestablished my career after my separation and divorce. I've put a lot of notches in my belt, from working my way all the way up to a lead project manager at two different major engineering firms, to this point where I could pretty much demand what I wanted in the way of a salary at that time. However, in a quick blink of an eye, that didn't happen, or that wasn't available, and that disappeared. So I got hit in the wallet rather quickly. And I haven't told everybody this story, but this was the beginning of me waking up. Well, I didn't understand the financial aspect of what was going on at that time like I do now. So I ended up thinking, well, this would be a good time to go back and see if I could fix some things with my kids, and because there was a lot of psychological damage there, and I was like, what, I'm gonna go back and put some time back into healing things, mending things, rebuilding relationships with family members if I could, that kind of thing. And I moved back, and it took It took 6 months, well, a little bit more than that, but yeah, it was about 6 months for me to get back into the engineering field. In that time of 6 months, lots of things happened. I was unable to get a engineering position, and thought that maybe I would have to find that income some other way. I was very willing to do whatever it took to reestablish my income, and I even went and got my Class A commercial. Took about a month, and that was around April, May of 2008. Drove across country a few times with a company that did team driving, and found out how fun it was to drive a tractor trailer, but how horrible it was to work for the companies that you'd have to do that for. It was an ugly time in that aspect. But around it was June or July of 2008, I finally managed to re-establish a position, same titles, same information, same kind of responsibilities, same just about everything except about a third what my income was in California. Now, mind you, there was some different economies there, and I understand that, but I should have been marketably higher than that, even though I was back in Virginia. And for the next cycle, or the next period of time that I was employed as a engineer and surveyor, from the summer 2008 to January of 2010, I watched that world that I lived in, the engineering world that is, continue to crumble. That company I worked for was like 15 offices strong up and down the East Coast, and by the time I was laid off in January of 2010, lots of changes had happened, lots of cycles had happened, and I was becoming very educated to the financial situations, to the business situations, to the cycles, and I started to see things that a little clearer. Not like I do now, because I've had 10 years to research just about everything there is to research, because I had a lot of time on my hand to do so, not having a 40-hour plus week job, which was always more than 40. I never worked 40 hours. I always worked 50, 60 hours plus, and that's what got me ahead on things. Well, in 2010, having reflected upon what I saw happen in the markets, what I saw happen to a lot of people that had been far more invested with their 401ks and such, and what happened in their, the work that they had put into saving, investing, because I bounced around in jobs, and I never really got an opportunity to be there that whole year where I would get started into. You get to an engineering firm, you have to be there for 6 months or a year before you really are allowed to start, putting your money into 401ks and stuff like that. They want you established. Well, that situation, I always seem to be missing out on it. So I kind of missed out on the 90s run-up, and I was really like, I wish I could have gotten into that. Never really happened for me. But I saw what was happening for the second time after the 2001, 2002 plunge, and then now we just had it again, and I'm going, you know what, maybe I'm kind of glad I didn't do that. But something else had been happening, and during that period of time, I'd woken up spiritually in a lot of ways to understanding that we were out of, or coming close to being out of time for the cycle. And I didn't understand it and couldn't put it into those words back then, but that was what I was coming to understand, that we had lived, humanity had lived too high on the hog for too long, and we were in a big problem because at that point I knew that the financial system was destined to completely implode. The fact that it hasn't quite done that yet does not change the fact that it is going to, and it is in the process of doing that. Our understandings of the cycles are still continuing to evolve through time as to how that works. And fortunately for you and I, that time has been greater than what mathematically it says it should have been, if you understand. So early on, over a decade ago, I had a vision, a showing, a knowing, a seeing, or whatever you want to call it, that was given to me of what things will be like at some point in time in the future. And there was a very strong correlation with a movie that I had seen probably, 2000, a couple decades earlier. I can't remember exactly when it did come out. I don't remember what it was, but the movie was called The Postman. There's been a lot of dystopic movies that have been out there, but never at that time had we ever correlated what Spirit shows us, what the powers that want to be try to foreshadow and program it. There's a lot of those cycles and inputs and stuff that we don't understand at that time. But what I knew is what I had seen. And so, long, complicated story, which I've gone much deeper into with many of you on a private level. Point is this: there was a picture that I knew back over a decade ago of where we will end up being, and it's a very close look at what you see in the movie The Postman at the end of the cycles, where there's literally just a few hamlets of people that are tucked away here and there because, that's what was able to be strong enough to handle the changes that happened after that movie's version of the United States, essentially imploding on itself. And there was some very interesting, there's a lot of very interesting parallel things that, if you look at the data points that are talked about, that are occurring now, especially with other movies like Mad Max and so on and so forth. So, being the engineer that I am, and I saw things from where we need to be. I saw the dysfunction in us getting away from a natural existence into a very fake existence. I would not have described it as being fake. I just knew it just wasn't working. It wasn't right. That the games that were played with our food systems and stuff, I knew those kinds of things were not good for us. Being able to use the word counterparty risk would not have been in my vocabulary at that time. I just knew that we were dependent, too dependent on everything else for everything that we needed. So in our early teens, 2011, 12, 13, I attempted to, because I knew that was the picture we were going to, where we will eventually get to, which is back down to smaller, tighter knit communities where we know each other better. We redevelop our relationships. We redevelop our local production of things that we need. All of those things that I've expressed to you in the last few years of my channel, I knew in time we're going to get there. And what I didn't understand is how difficult it would be for so many of us to mentally come out of the matrix, to mentally step away from all our habits, all the things that we were used to getting, the way we were used to getting. For me, it's always been easy with change because I didn't have a choice. There's so many things that have happened to me in my life that, you just kind of have to roll with it. Some of us get that because we have been dealt that. Some of us don't get it because we've never had to deal with it, and it's very challenging for us. But that's the nature of the wave of energy, of time, and cycles and such. It just got a little darker. We got a front thunderstorms. We're desperately needing some rain for the ground. It's dried out here in the last few weeks, and looking forward to it. So I'm hoping to get this done and go up and upload a video for you while it's raining. So my initial desire was to get to that community, to find and build a community that was awake and aware to the extent that we are now. And that didn't work out at that time. T and I went through a couple iterations of trying to find that. We did it a few times in Montana, and some of you have had the discussions on how. Oh, well, that educated me pretty significantly about people and how people think and how people work and how we, and it's just the nature of humanity and where we are at that time versus where we are at this time and where we were 20 years ago. There is a different mental approach. There is a different psyche. There is, a whole different understanding. There are things that are being said and talked about now that weren't even in existence 10 years ago. So lots changed. A lot of new stuff is happening at this time. And so, T and I gave it a shot that way. And it didn't work out too good. Obviously, I'm not up there and not in either of those communities because there were understandings that weren't mutual. And the mutual understanding that I think is finally coming out is that we better get to working together. Really need to get to working together to handle the changes that are still off in time coming at us rather rapidly. The essence of time is pretty powerful right now. We don't have a lot of cycle left before these changes get here. And also, in 2015 and 16, while the third third iteration of trying to form a community was kind of not working out too well, that's where I started doing this with you, the YouTube. And my desire was, okay, I just wanted to work on an immediate community and work and make it intimate and make it family, because that's something that, because my family was torn apart, it's something that's deep down that I've wanted to get back. My dad destroyed my marriage with my mom. My first marriage came apart, and I want family. I love family. I want people to love and care for each other, and this is something that's in my heart, and that's the basis of everything that I've done. So that's why I was looking for it. Let's build it back, because I know that's strong, that's strength, that's what we need, that's what we're here for. We didn't come here to explore this universe by ourselves and do it independently. Otherwise, we wouldn't want to draw into these bigger cities and things. Where we've got issues. There's a big size issue, and many have spoken on it, what is natural for us to be in as far as a community is concerned. I think Cliff High did a really good kind of explanation on the tribal aspect of what makes a good core of that 144. It's also biblically explained. There's a lot of look into that from people who have a good understanding of our humanity. So I went on, okay, well, I can't get this thing to work on an individual level because of my NDEs and because of what I was told, and many of you and I have had that conversation about the two NDEs and what I was told during those, that, I still felt compelled to give out and teach as much as I can. And that's why I went into YouTube and I said, well, let's just keep it simple. People can't seem to wrap their heads around about how we really need to come together. And maybe they can just understand the simple concept of, well, if you need hot water and you ain't got hot water. So, there's a gentleman out there that's done a fabulous job of what he does. Scott Hunt over on Engineer 775. He was doing some videos on, how to make hot water. I think his one out there has got a freaking crazy amount of views. Endless hot water or something like that. And so I took that, and I was living off grid, or had been living off grid and was working on living off grid, because by 2015, 2016, I had started to really understand the fragility of, that's why I got into solar too, because that, after the second, or after that engineering job collapsed in 10, I went back and got NABCEP certified training for, open up my solar business in 11 and 12. But the point was, this is all about growth in me and understanding, well, the fragility of the systems that we're in. So that's what I started to share in 2016 and 17. I started doing a lot of videos on off-grid systems that were, reasonable. Because Scott had done that video, and in it he, wrapped a copper pipe around the flue pipe, and to where you put a fire in it, and it just heats up water. And well, I tried it, and it heated water, but not really the way it needed to be, so that I could have the quality of life that I was used to in the matrix, into the grid systems. So I thought through it, re-engineered it into such a way that I put up a video, and I created a thermal siphon system that really did work, which means all I needed for hot water was to throw some wood into a wood stove, and I can take a shower. Now, many of you have seen that, because I finally put up that system video on what I'm living off of. So, more growth and more cycles. But I continued on YouTube, and by 2016 and 2017, I had digested enough of market information by watching lots of wonderful people out there. And many of you will remember the many interviews that I've done in such. And then what went through my mind back then was, how do I get so many of you to connect the dots the way I did? And so that because it's still that way, and it's still that way to an extent now, where there's a lot of people in our world that are still very money focused, currency focused. And I don't have as many views on my channel because people haven't really tied, well, there's a lot of reasons, one being censored and whatnot, but getting people who are so in the matrix, that are so money, gotta have money, how do I make money, how do I take money, how do I steal money, how do I get money, whatever they gotta do to get the amount of time that people spend chasing that dollar in their thinking prevents them from seeing the connection that I made to where we were structurally and socially, politically, economically, and all those different terms, where we were there and where we're going and where we want to go and where we need to go to become healthier again as a human existence. So that's when I started doing the videos on YouTube. And at that same time, the third iteration of Community was breaking down in Montana, and T and I are like, well, we need to get our own place. We got to find something we can afford, and let's take a little bit of time just to understand one part of this picture that I've tried to paint for you guys, and that is time is of the essence all the time in one aspect. You have but one physical existence at this moment that you're working on. Now we're forever creatures, or spiritually are, but you only have so much time on this particular journey. I know we're more than one. We're not one trippers. We're more than one trippers. So we will come back, but it might be a few thousand years. I don't know how that's going to work, depending upon your karma and your what you've learned and what you don't, and what you got to repeat and deal with in the ether, in heaven or hell or whatever you want to put it. You got some stuff to deal with. We all do. But at this time, you have so much time to live for this trip, this vacation, this learning experience, this college before you go back to the ether, whatever you want to refer to this. So if you understand the psychopaths and how they've engineered this financial system to monopolize your time and labor, and we talk about labor being what they're really after, this servitude monetary system that we've been in. Why would you value your time so low as to serve them when you don't have to? So for this moment in time, the recipe that we've talked about is becoming as self-sufficient as possible, so that you are free to choose what you want to do with your time, to have the option to choose whether you value your time this way or value your time that way. Because if you don't have the option to choose, you're not free. And that's one of the pictures that I wanted to show as to how to do that in this system. Problem is, too many of us are used to doing too little for getting too much, so they don't understand the amount of work involved in doing it. And that, too, is a balance of time. But your options are there. So getting rid of the counterparty risk, in as much as finding a place that you don't have to pay for everything that you need constantly, requiring you to go get currency units to do such, is a hard thing to wrap your head around. And that's what has given T and I here. Now that once I saw this picture years ago, and I said, this is the picture we need to come up with, so that we have the time to think about what we're doing and choose wisely how we spend our time. That's what gives us the power. That's what gives the elite the power. They don't care about money. They got all they want to. So it's a matter of what do they do, and they get corrupt with it, and they want to manage everybody else's time, if you understand. So that's our picture. That's what I've been trying to paint. So when I went back into YouTube, or when I started changing things in YouTube more away from off-grid and homesteading into the monetary thing, that was my goal. And for many of you, I did make a connection that way. I made the connection between all the issues that you keep dealing with when it comes to money into why that paints the picture I've been showing you here on the homestead for a few years now. So that's what we did. And we had a good time at it too. I really think so. There's been some stress. T and I have dealt with our stressful issues too throughout time to time in getting it done, because it's not easy. It's change, and it's a hell of a lot of work, my friends. It's a hell of a lot of work. But over time, it has changed our value structure for how we see things, what we want around us, how we want it, and where we do place our value. It really has changed that. Time is valuable, and far more valuable than I would to let it slip away for a simple hourly waged job. Now, it doesn't mean I don't like making things, building things, doing things, fixing things, or whatever I do in exchange for stored energy or a monetary instrument so that I can have it to get other things I want. So I'm trading my value for other value. I'm okay with that. But how do I value that? What do I get for investing my time with people, or with you, or with this thing, or with that thing? What do I get back for it? I've changed my value system on that over the last decade. However, as I sit here and think about it, in some ways, yes, it's changed, but actually in some ways it's not. Because in the end, my original goal was to be in community with people so that we could love each other, care for each other, help each other, sup with each other, engage in our labor with each other. And there's an old statement or saying that comes out of the Christian community. I believe the quote is this, and some of you may know where it came from. But a family that works together, plays together, and I believe it says prays together, stays together. And I can tell you, for all the family that I've ever known, those things didn't happen, and no, they didn't stay together. And when I do see those things in place, I see strong family units. And we were destroyed within from the powers that be. So that has been my goal, and that's my value, and that's where I see the most value is in having that kind of people who value those kinds of things, that have the same value system, being able to preserve the quality of our life through changes in time. Powerful thoughts. So we are 37 minutes in. There's a lot that I have said, but now I think it's time to conclude that in such a way that I can restructure my time. Hope you're having fun with this like I am. So, what does that mean? Well, things are changing. Things are changing rapidly, and the goals that I've been wanting to make have been met, and they're being met. And things that I want to have happen are just one right after the other. There's in not too much of a time, a lot of things are falling into place in a beautiful way, a rather beautiful way. So what does that mean for my time? All right. Well, over the last couple years, there's been continual changes. There's been changes that I didn't want because they were not in my control, or go the takedown of my channel, which I'm truly and sorely sorry for those of you out there that have lost that resource of information, because there was so much data that was there. But there is a shift back towards what my original target was. Now that T and I have managed to position ourselves where we are the ones that can be more guiding, more in control, because we now own the land that we're trying to create the community on. Unlike where I was before, in Montana, there was not ownership, but for the person who owned it, got to make all the rules, and that wasn't quite fair for all of us that did the work. Isn't that right, honey? Who did the work? Who did the work?
You and I.
Yeah, we did the work. They owned the land. That doesn't work too well. It needs to be a team, family, equal ownership, or at least apportioned ownership, or so on and so forth. We've gotten deep into that. But there's where my focus is going, my friends. And I now have a nice little coming together. I got let's see, a family of, I think it's 4, I'm pretty sure my math is correct, husband, wife, 2 teenage kids that will be coming into the area. I've got a family of 3, husband, wife, and daughter, that have that are working on coming into another area, and an older woman that is looking for a place to spend a less traumatic rest of her days in community that she doesn't have there either. And they're all looking for a very similar thing, and it's taken them a long time to see that. One guy is that I'm working with now, and 4 years ago we were talking, and it's taken him some time, and I think things are finally working out. And that's just the nature of the change and the movement of ideas and thoughts. So what does that mean? What that means is there's going to be further changes on my YouTube channel here. I'm not super excited about moving to other platforms because I'm not sure that any of the other platforms are more long-term, long-time viable. There's a lot of evidence out there that says that it might not be might not be there. That those things, because I can't control them, you can't control them, none of us can control them, that there's somebody else that has their hand on a big switch, and that switch has been, there might something happen to that in the next few weeks, from what I'm hearing. What we have control of is what we can put our hands onto, and that's it. And what I value is that the highest. What can I do directly and have the most immediate effect? That's where I put my value. So in this present time, I first want to do I want to do 2 things. One, for all of those who have come along for the journey over this time and have gifted to me and T and supported us in various ways, monetarily, emotionally, spiritually, in a lot of different ways. I feel truly blessed. T and I both feel truly blessed to have had so many of you on our journey for that period of time. It means a lot to us. Unfortunately, we can't all be neighbors and have the real true physical community that we need in that manner. There are so many of you that I've tried to support in coming together with us, and it's not been easy. Many people have issues, that are really, in my opinion, very small, but become big enough to prevent us from coming together. It's the same thing that has kept some of these folks that are now coming from coming, 2 years ago, because it took time for the understanding of that picture. The picture that I saw years and years ago of being the highest value, that values over everything, over food, over silver, over gold, over everything. The real value that we have is each other, and it's and the wonderful things that we could do for each other. So, for all of you that have, there's a little bit of a rumble there, so I probably ought to wrap this up. I really want to thank all of you who have been there and supported. It is huge for me and T, because you helped us manifest a big picture here, and that allows us to give back. And that's where I started doing the YouTube, is to give back, as I was instructed to in the NDEs. You were given some gifts, you need to give back. But my preference is to do that on a personal level. And now, at this time, I'm going to be turning a tremendous amount more focus on that. Now, the last few weeks I haven't put a lot of videos because my time has been eaten up in helping these other folks, and as well as taking care of the things here on the homestead, and with some of the things that I want to create, such as the apple presses and other things out of wood and stuff that the things I like to make and build and that kind of thing. And I've got a lot of that on my plate. And with all the other folks coming in, my time is going to be consumed helping these other folks very directly to get up to speed with their self-sustaining little systems. So what I'm basically saying, long story short, thank you for coming along on the journey. I'm not going to leave, quit, disappear, or anything like that unless they turn things off and then we're all shut off anyway. But I am definitely not going to be putting up videos the way I used to. I recommended, over a year or so ago, before my first channel got taken down, to back up. As I always told you, back up. If you like these videos, save them down, and so on and so forth. When we started getting warnings through the 17th letter BS that hasn't played out yet, if it does, I said back then, back it up, get it on your own hard drives. I mean, I've taken a lot of time to go online and download videos that I want for information, like all my cheese making videos from old Gavin Weber. That guy's awesome when it comes to making cheese. I don't know how to do it. I want to learn. Same with you. If you have these things that you want to learn, get them down. Like my my solar hot water rainwater video where I walk you through the whole system. You might want to download that because it might be something you may need to put up, those kinds of things. But for now, in this time, I'm going to let you know that the amount of videos that I'm going to do is going to be significantly reduced for a good period of time that I can foresee. I'm not going to say I'm going to stop, because you know me, I might find something that I want to share with you and I put up something. But the majority, I think, is just going to be focused on, the videos that I do put up will be for things that I create, or I'll finish up the apple presses and stuff like that, and cutting boards and cheese presses. As I go to building some of those things, I will put those up on my other channel. So do make sure that you are subscribed to the Heritage Homestead Creations channel, which link is going to be in the description down there. And I'm sorry for some of you that I know there's a lot of you out there. I could sit there and probably name 100 names going, Aaron, no, don't leave us. Well, I'm not leaving. I'm just not going to do much. I'm not going to be talking a lot. Obviously can't talk about the geopolitical and economic. I'm hoping those of you who've been with me long enough know what you need to know and are really putting things in action, because the time is of the essence to get those things in place. The supply chain issues that we've been seeing breaking down, ordering solar equipment here recently, stuff isn't available. Stuff doesn't want to come in if you don't have it. We're going to get to that place, and there's a few other good channels that have made the statement. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, and if there will be the haves and the have-nots, and that's why we're in the crack-up boom phase of things. So, you got to get her done. You can tell we've gotten really dark. I'm starting to get a little granular on the video. So anyway, I think that's about long enough. It's been a long journey for me to get to where I'm at. I'm still not there, but a lot of my time is going to be focused directly here. You don't need to unsubscribe if you don't want to. What I will say is, those of you on Patreon, if you're thinking that if I'm not putting up enough video content that I'm just letting you know. If you wish to continue on Patreon, that is wonderful. But if you are on Patreon and you're expecting a continual stream of videos, that's not something that's going to happen here in the future. I'm not saying I'm not going to keep doing it, but for those of you who feel like that's what you're paying for, well, I'm letting you know now. Normally, I don't care. Patreon was a means by which you guys requested of me a way to give back to me for the information I was giving to you. So, it's there. People have come and gone. I have seen people come for a few months, disappear, come back for a few months, disappear. I just let it be what it is. It is your means to give back, and I'm just letting you know that that's the scenario. Many of the wonderful gifts I've gotten very directly, PayPal and straight up amounts here and there, and that's fine. I thank all of those who have gifted. I set that up only because you asked me to. As far as my means by which I depend on, I have never set it up so that I depend on a constant stream of like paycheck kind of thing. That is a gift. It has always been a gift from you to me, and that's all it will be. It is not, my supporting myself has always been done with what I can do physically in labor, whether I'm building an AlpaPress or making a greenhouse, building a greenhouse or a porch, or anything that I'm working on, or putting in a solar system for somebody. Those are the things that have been the foundation of what I can do. So learning those skill sets, we've talked about that too. You want your skill sets for being able to contribute to the community. So long chat. Thank you so much for being out there and being a community. I wish all of you could be in a little town next to me where we could just all come together and have a big stinking Sunday picnic, That's what it's all about. So it's been a good time. It's been a really good time. Boy, it's getting really dark out. Probably ought to end this and get up the road. You all be blessed. Come here. I say I love you, and T says
bye.
Bye, and we're not disappearing.
No.
We're just not going to be there a lot. So we got lots to take care of. Y'all take care. Bye bye.